How'd you guys like rack the paint? Like,
and it was, you know, different times. Like when it was summertime, it was harder to rack up because you couldn't rack up on your body much because you couldn't wear the big coats. So what we would do sometimes is we would put them in our socks, you know, and put them in, like 2 of them in front of our pants, and put the t-shirt over it and walk out like that and just suck our gut in. You know, it was very hard. And what we would do is we would have to go in there with bags and just fill up bags, you know. And you know, also sometimes people broke in stores at night, overnight, and they racked up. They got hundreds of cans. They would break inside. You know, they go from the roof down, or back in the gate, and they'll cut the gate and go in the window, and you'd come off with 200-300 cans. So you're good for a couple of weeks. But it was very hard to rack up in the summer on your body because you didn't have that long coat or nothing that you could rack up in, you know. So it was in the winter. We would have our jackets, and we would tuck them inside our jackets, tuck them in our back, tuck them in the pockets of our jackets, the outside pockets, fill our socks up. We would come out with 10, 12 cans, you know, like that on our body. That was no problem. But in the summer, you're lucky if you're getting between 3 and 6 cans a shot out of the store because you have really nowhere to hide them on your body because you're just wearing a t-shirt and pants. And back then we were wearing bell bottoms, so it was easy to put it in our sock. You wouldn't see it because they were wide, you know. So we would walk out with them. And I remember one story with Nick. Nick would put them in his sock for some reason. God bless his soul, man. But he was a funny guy, man. You know, we would hear the ball bearings rattle as he's walking out the store, man. Everybody's turning around, man. And he's there happy-go-lucky with a big smile on his face saying, I got over. And he's walking out and these fucking ball bearings are jingling and shit. And we say, Nick, you fucking making too much noise, man. But you know, Nick was like that, man. He was a comedian. Even back in the day, man. Nick was the same back in the day than he was when I met him, when I ran back into him 10, 12 years ago. Nick never changed. He was always the same. He was always a comedian. And you know, man, it's sad. It's sad that he went, man. It's sad because I know he was about to make it with that. He was about to make it with his art, and it's just sad. But you know, he's in his mansion now. He always wanted to be in a mansion. Right now, he's in his mansion, and he's having a good time, man. You know, he's at a much better place, much better.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, we're gonna miss him, man. But you know what? He left behind a lot of art. So
sure did,
he's never going to be
crazy legacy, man.
He's never going to be forgotten because he left something good behind for everybody to enjoy.
Not every artist gets covered by the New York Times.
No, not at all. That just goes to tell you who he was and how big he really was, and what he left behind was a lot of good work for people to enjoy.
Well, I have you guys largely to thank for bringing me in with Nick.
Yeah, well, Nick is like from our childhood, man.
I knew him before I had met you guys, but it wasn't until I started hanging out with you guys a lot that
right, because you know, then you can see how our stories were.
Oh, it was amazing.
Interlocking with each other's, and you know, I mean, when we were going like towards the end, when our crew was going, we were starting to get real good, man. There was a lot of stuff we were doing that people were starting to do after us too, man. I mean, we were getting real good. It's just that, you know, we were getting a lot of pressure from the cops, and then we were hanging out more outside and getting into other things, you know. And I mean, we were getting raided a lot. We were getting raided. We were getting chased. It was just a lot at the time because we were doing a lot of work, and the cops were looking for us, man. And we were getting. I got ratted on. Some of us got ratted on. It was crazy. A lot of shit was going on because we were catching a lot of heat. Those lines, the 4s, the 2s, and 5s. Those were like the big lines back in the day. The cops wanted all the fucking riders that were doing any kind of work on that line. They wanted them. And they would call a rider and say, look, man, I'll give you a free pass, man. Just tell me how to get these guys and set them up. And there were riders who did that. They took that pass and they ratted our people. That's how it was going on. The cops go buy them lunch, you know, everything. I wouldn't be surprised if they gave them a fucking get free card, man. You know what I'm saying? Really, I mean, that's how shit was going back then. Imagine that if you were a rider and you were ratting people out, and Oh shit, then you can do whatever you want. You can get up as much as you want. You can do whatever. The fucking yard is yours.
What's the fun of that?
So you get busted, big deal. You make a phone call and you're fucking out, nothing happens to you because you ratted out the other rider. You know? Which is fucked up.
No
really.
fun.
No fun at all, no. It's not a challenge. When you go in the yard, you know you're not going to get caught. It's not a challenge no more either. That's the whole thing too. That rush.
Takes out the adrenaline too.
Exactly.
Like the actual.
It's like going up to a wall today. You know you're not going to get busted. You know, so you can do whatever you want. Relax. When you're in the yard, you can't relax. You know, your adrenaline's going. That's how it is. But if you were one of those rats back in the day, you can go in the yard and do whatever you want.
Those rats.
I mean, even if you got caught by a fucking uniform cop or a transit cop, we called them back in the day. There were different divisions. They had the transit and then they had the city. They would ride around in black and white cars at transit. Even if you got caught by them, you would tell the cop, "Yo, call this guy up, man. This guy knows me, man." And he would call up that DT that he's working for, and he would fucking let them go. That's how it was. There were big riders that were rats back then.
Alright, so Kit, out of all these paints, what was the best to use? I don't know if I asked you that question. I just want to make sure I get it again.
The best to use, it depends. Like if you want to paint the spread and get a lot, like with throwies, like I said before, the best throwies were probably using the Rust-Oleum aluminum, but you got a lot out of that paint. But the Rust-Oleum was also good for fill-ins, man, because they covered real good. But if you wanted to like do the designs and like get precise with things and do a nice thin outline, you always use this Red Devil. Red Devil was a thick paint and it hardly dripped. I mean, it was almost impossible to drip like this. This is something like Belton today. I actually think this is better than Belton. But these were the main ones we used for the outlines and the designs. The Red Devils. And to tighten up the pieces. Because they were very thick and they were easy to work with. And then you had the krylon. But krylons were a little bit like, I put them I'd say number 4 because I think a Utilac paint, which is in here, was also better than the krylon. The krylons are right here. The krylons were a little bit watery. Just a little bit. But not as bad as the wet looks. The wet looks were watery. But these you can get away with also. You could do fill-ins and all that, but they weren't as good as the Rust-Oleums. Not at all.
What were your favorite colors, Kid, off the top of your head? Do you remember the names?
Yeah, here's one of them. There's a Cascade Green. This was one of them.
I definitely recognize that one.
I did a whole car, top to bottom, in Esplanade. I think I used 12 of these cans.
Oh my god.
I just used my 3 letters back then. I didn't even put a number behind it. And it just, I mean, you could just the smell. I mean, as I was leaving, as I was going into the station after I left the tunnel, I could still smell the paint from that day. But this was one of them. Federal Safety Purple and Federal Safety Green were great colors. I also liked, Krylon had a hot pink and a hot raspberry back in the day. I always liked the brighter colors too. And then Utilac, they had a parrot green and a perky pink. Those were the cans I favored most, you know. And the school bus yellow was also good. And this one right here, which was hard to find, the sandalwood tan, I would like this one. I always use this with a Dunes tan because it's like a shade lighter. It went good with it.
Hold that up again, Kid.
Yeah.
What color is that?
This is sandalwood tan, and it always went good with a Dunes tan because the Dunes tan was just a shade lighter, and it complemented it pretty good.
Highlights.
You know? That was also another good one.
And that's the one, Marvin. That's the silver tuna.